So hi everyone, we're going to be talking about sourcing sustainability. So my name is Sarah Sharif. I'm the founder of Experimental Civics. And so the last 8-9 years of my career have really been focused in innovation. And I do a lot of futures thinking work, and sustainability is a huge component of that. So I'm really excited to be joined here by these wonderful panelists. So what I'm going to do is just ask them to quickly introduce themselves and share a little bit more about what they do. But Abby, I'm going to start with you.
Thank you. So excited to be here. Obviously, as you well know, the intersection of innovation and sustainability is really the sweet spot for me. So hi, I'm Abby Camerzell, and I'm the head of sustainability for H&M here in North America. So that covers the US and Canada. In my role, I'm really looking at the environmental impacts of H&M as a retail organization, keeping in mind and really looking at as well the social impact, so community investment, philanthropy, all of those things, and how they combine together with environment.
Thanks, Sarah. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Maya Ankali-Tierney. I have 15 years of experience in the retail realm of design and architecture. And most recently, I'm a consultant in sustainability and really focused and have a passion integrating design with the impact and outcome having innovative, sustainable design and impact on health and wellness for your occupant.
My name is Sonja Djønne, and I'm the founder and CEO of HeyMat. We make mats, floor mats, with Scandinavian design, and yeah, so that's really. I've been doing this for 6 years, so now I'm yeah, perfect.
Great. So thank you all for being here. I'm really excited. So I'm just going to dive right into the really good stuff. So the first question I want to ask all of you is, how do you address sustainability right now in your organization?
I can kick it off, I guess. I mean, when thinking about sustainability, obviously at H&M, we're a large fashion retailer, if you weren't familiar. So really looking at sustainability, number one is looking at what is our ultimate goal at this time. Of course, with sustainability, you're learning new things every single day, so how you go about those goals can change. But ultimately, we have the ambition to become fully circular and climate positive by 2040. And we do that by looking at sort of 3 different categories. That's circular processes, circular products. So by processes, I mean things like supply chain, circular products, and then the circular customer journey. Because we know as a fashion retailer, it's not just what are your scope 1 and 2 emissions, it's also looking at what is scope 3, everything from the materials, resources, all the way to a customer, their washing machine at home, and then also how are we ensuring that our products are given new life when whoever has them in the first place is done with them. And we really do this by looking at innovation, by looking at transparency, and really looking at how are we rewarding consumer behavior for circularity. And that really goes down to how is it easier to give our products new life than for them to ever go to landfill.
Yeah, sustainability has been important for us ever since we started HeyMat 6 years ago. And I really think that one of the keys in improving the environment is to reduce the consumption. So we are really looking into the lifespan of our products. How can they live long? How can they help people for a long time? And in the beginning, we also were concerned about the packaging, the waste, the packaging we're doing. But now we are also using a lot of recycled materials in our products. And the fabric is made from recycled bottles. So we think that's really good. But that's a development that has come over time. And I think it will just continue, because I don't think it's a question on whether we are doing this. We have to do this. It's just a question on how can we do this and how can we improve all the time.
I think it's really a question of what are you doing? What are you doing and how are you doing the right thing? Whether it's for you personally as a participator in your project, or are we doing the right thing as a company? And having been in retail, whether it be small retail, big rollout, cafe retail, or luxury retail, it's looking at what I like to call the project life cycle and how that looks across in your built environment. So starting all the way from concept to design, to development, implementation, all the way to what we like to say in the retail world, turnover to the client. But then what does that look like for maintenance? And I think focusing on that company's return on investment, typically they kind of focus on, well, how much am I spending upfront? But it's really persuading them to look at what are we spending in the future? And along those every phase that I just mentioned, it's really finding whether it's the big picture or the small picture, what are the small things that you can do in every single phase to result in a sustainably positive impact. So, whether it's concept, choosing and working with vendors for selecting sustainable materials, working with fabricators, again in the retail world, your display fixtures, or your built environment, what are the processes that they use in construction, the demo. And the demolition is a huge thing. We all know that in retail, whether you're remodeling or you're doing a new store, but especially in remodeling, the historical way to do this is literally to throw everything in the trash in the landfill. And how can we think about that differently? And last but not least, again, like I said, the maintenance of the project. How are we impacting the occupant? Is it a healthy space? Are we breathing fresh air? Are we making it a less stressful environment, not only for our customers, but for the employees as well?
So there are several things that you all mentioned. So from product design to process. And so my question is, how do you prioritize? What is the first thing that you tackle? How do you think about that when it comes to the work that you do? Because of course the whole thing needs to be reimagined, but where do you start?
I mean, ultimately, I think that's a tough question because we have to look at everything, right? So I think there's sort of two parallel pathways that we're looking at, and especially when you're thinking about clothing, fashion retailers, you have the two pathways. One is designing for circularity. So from the very, very beginning at the initial design process, are you designing for circularity and for this product or store or whatever it is you're designing, because retail encompasses such a huge, a huge swath. Are you designing it for circularity? Are you designing it to last? Are you designing it to be remade? Are you designing it to be given new life in some way? So there's that one side, and of course there's a lot of innovations that go into that. There's a lot of investment. But then on the other side of it, it's looking at new business models and really how are you investing in sustainability long-term for long-term business results. And I think that's something you mentioned. It's really looking at not just that sort of take, make, waste that we've sort of seen in the linear economy, but if we're truly going to be a circular economy, what are the investments that you're making in rental? What are the investments you're making in secondhand? And how are you incorporating those into your business model as well? So really, it's both working within what we already do, but also, of course, exploring those new pathways as well. And I think that really does come down to innovation and transparency is not sustainability, we all know that, but transparency is the enabler of being really critical about what you're doing and the actual impact.
I also think you need to look at several things at the same time, and innovation is really important, but you also need to start with the low-hanging fruits. Can you do something really fast to improve things? Is it possible to do that? And then you have to, because a lot of things will take time. And it's important that we all are improving, but we are not, none of us are perfect. So I think it's important to do something and to see what are the improvements, and then to develop further. How can you do? Because I think in the environmental way we are going, there's a lot of things that has to be done, and not everything is perfect from day one, but we have to start and we have to learn. And I also think sustainability is a lot about how are people. So I think also working with the working conditions for people in the factories and everything. So it's a lot of things you can do and to improve the sustainability in your company.
I think what Avi and Sonia say really resonate, and I think again, looking at it from the built environment, it's the power of comparison. And I know, again, working at large retailers, especially in the luxury retail environment, that I honestly think have come late to the table in discussing sustainability. The power of comparison is critical, because consumers are more cognizant and more aware of not only the products that they are buying, but the environments that they are experiencing that shopping and customer journey. So when you start to compare your competitors, when you're identifying benchmarks, that helps to prioritize what you need to do first. And yes, be able to implement those low-hanging fruits or identify those low-hanging fruits, but also have that immediate 1-year goal, 5-year goal, 10-year goal, so that you have meaningful impact in the future as well as in the immediate.
And so what I'm hearing from all of you as well, it seems like there's this thread around conversation. So having these discussions with the retailers, with the vendors, fabricators. So I'm just kind of curious again, how do you approach those discussions on circularity? How do you talk about it? Do you have a really powerful story to share?
I'll start with the low-hanging fruits. So I said, starting from concept all the way to especially construction, and I'll kind of focus a little bit on construction. As architects and designers, you're always developing a specification for your construction process. And some of the low-hanging fruits are things that are already on the job site. So making small little changes, let's say, to your specification for drywall. Drywall can be recycled. Steel studs can come recycled. And it's a very small incremental price that you pay in order to make those revisions or modifications in that process. I'm working currently with a Canadian GC right now, and again, looking at the low-hanging fruit. How can they use more recyclable products during the construction process? Can they work with local municipalities to understand how the recycling process works in that community? It could be as simple as take a little extra time to separate the waste, or engage a third-party recycling company to work with you and not spend time on the job site, but it might be, again, a small cost during the construction process to haul away that waste and feel better about it not ending up in a landfill.
I think collaboration is really important if you are going to manage to improve the environment and increasing the sustainability. And I think like us, we don't make the products ourselves. We are collaborating with factories that makes the product, and of course we have to get to them and tell them what we need, and we need to. So for us it's been years with working with the best factories and the factories that would like to improve. So I think there's a power. The customers has a lot of power. And I think both collaborating with the customer and both up and down in a way, I think it's important, because the whole world has to do this together. Not one person or one business can do this.
And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I do want to add, given working in Norway and then coming also to the US, what has your experience been like with having those discussions?
Norway is, or the Nordic countries, like HM is a Nordic business, is in a lot of sense are has come a long way. and is thinking green in many ways. And also the government is making regulations and rules that has to be followed. And I think that has been one of the things that have made the companies there getting ahead maybe in some ways. But I feel in the US, I feel a lot of people is concerning about the sustainability and like that we are making in products of recycled materials. And I also feel the factories that we are working with here, because we managed to make the products that we sell in the US, we managed to make it here in the US to reduce the transportation. And those are really, they have made a lot of effort in making the products the way we would like to have them made. So I think that's great.
Yeah, not to repeat everyone else, so I'll just add on. I definitely, of course, collaboration, we've talked about this, both within the industry and within fashion, but also with others outside of the industry, and looking at innovation and looking at what you can incorporate, whether that's new technologies, whether that's new business models. I think I definitely have it a little bit easier than some. The CEO of the H&M Group, Helena Helmerson, was previously our head of sustainability. So when you have your CEO who comes from a sustainability and production actually background, sometimes it's a little bit easier to get things going within your organization. But just to add on to that, collaboration definitely, between our vendors, between our builders, between everyone we work with, definitely in the supply chain with governments, how are we all working together to advance the mission of sustainability? And one of the things that I'm really proud about is that the H&M Foundation has the Global Change Awards, which are early stage innovator awards. And with these awards, it's really looking at sustainability within the fashion industry in a new way. So it's not just new materials, it's new processes, it's new business models, new ways of looking at what is fashion. And we're an investor in it. It's a year-long accelerator program. H&M does not own any of the IP. It all stays with the business owners. So it's really looking at how are we changing the industry, not just taking something for H&M. And then, of course, with the size and scale that we have also, how can we look at scaling these innovations so that it's not just a few items, that we can really do it on that massive, massive scale that H&M is fortunate to have.
And so I want to shift the perspective from, I know we've talked a lot about collaborations and obviously working with a lot of external vendors in your network. How does this look like internally? How do you galvanize your organization, the people that you work with, to really get behind sustainability, circularity, and really understand it, to become champions of it?
I think it starts with, I'm going to kind of just give a compliment to Abby. She has so much energy, and it's probably her passion, but I think that's a really important step. Whether you're one person in a company or you're leading a whole entire sustainability department in a company, having that energy and having that passion and being able to exude that to whether it's your executive level, your mid-management, or even the people working for you, that's like the really big start. And like I think I've said before, in one luxury retailer that I worked with, I basically was the spearhead for implementing a whole entire sustainability program for their built environment. And it's focusing on first doing the right thing, again, speaking for yourself to exude that passion, but then looking at the return on investment, and again, looking at short-term and long-term goals, and really just bringing people along in the journey and trying to get them as energized and passionate about what it can do for them and what it can do for the company itself.
Well, I think for us, like we are a small company and I'm the CEO, and when I care about sustainability, everybody does, so that's really easy. But I think sustainability has become one of the pillars of our company, and by doing that, I think it does something with everybody working for us and working with us. So setting the goal out there. I think it's important.
Yeah, I think it definitely has to do with showing the vision of where you want to be as an organization and getting everyone on board with that. So it is definitely those quick wins, those are exciting, those are things people can feel good and motivated by, but then also really looking at where do you want to be and why do we as an organization not just want to be there. It's not like a stretch goal, but making it a hygiene factor of your company, that now sustainability is one of the pillars of our company. You know, for H&M, it's fashion and quality at the best price in a sustainable way. That's part of our business idea. So it is really making sure that everyone understands in a sustainable way, what does that mean for them and bringing them along for the ride. So it's not the sustainability department telling everyone else what to do, it's our design department feels responsible for sustainability. Our construction department feels responsible for sustainability. Our controllers, our accountants, they see sustainability as part of their role, not just this add-on satellite department. And I think that's really where you have to go. It has to be fully integrated into the vision of what is your company. And really, you know, you as a person, do you feel that you are doing the work yourself, and how is that driving you? Because ultimately you have to share your vision.
And I think what comes along with that, because I totally hear you, you need those small wins, right? You need those moments where you can see some of the change, see some of the progression. So I'd love to ask you all, getting a little bit more personal here, but what's a story that you have of success or small win, a big win that you felt really motivated you when it comes to this work? Because I know there's hard days as well.
I could start. I mean, one of the most recent wins, and it's a big win for me. It's a small win for H&M and us having like 4,500 stores. But we just did a rebuild of a store in Canada, one of our Canadian stores, and it was really a thoughtfully sustainable rebuild. We were able to reuse a huge percentage of the fixtures within the store, just looking at them in a new way. The store is in Ontario, and we were actually able to get anything that needed to be fabricated was fabricated, but also the raw materials, if they, you know, the raw materials needed to be mined or whatever it was, those were mined within 100 miles of Ontario. And so that is, you know, nothing had to be shipped from overseas. It all was very locally done with a focus on sustainability and still with beautiful design, still keeping the customer journey in mind, still keeping our employees in mind. And so by thinking about, you know, how we build our stores or rebuild our stores in a new way, this was really one of those it can be done moments, and now we have an example that can set the pathway for other stores. So, you know, it was big for me. It's only one store right now, but it was the first of its kind, and this is really showing now what can be done globally.
I guess you could say it's a small win and a big win simultaneously, but I think the small win for me was just getting the organization to listen, to sit down, have the conversation, have a dialogue, to get them to think, well, what is their vision? Again, to what you women were saying, what's the vision and what's the mission statement for your company? How do you want your brand to show up in the consumer world? But, you know, again, the small win was the dialogue, and I guess the next smaller win was being able to have a gold certified store without even having implemented the public commitments yet to the world about what we were doing and what that, you know, long-term 2025 goal looked like.
I don't think I have any great wins. I think it's a kind of integrated part of us, and we have been doing it all the time, so it's just we are doing these small wins every day, I think.
And when it comes to sustainability, and again, just thinking about how you actually get started on a project, how you actually bring it to life, is there anything that you wish you would have known before delving into this work? If you could go back in time and say something to yourself, what would you say?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. What could that be? Can I think while the others are talking?
You can certainly have thinking time. Abby, do you want to?
I mean, I think that really for me coming into sustainability, I came in very wide-eyed and full of wonderment, and I think understanding for me both the impact that these small wins can have on an organization in the motivation and not discounting the small things and really taking those as the wins that they are. But also for me, patience is not a virtue that I have. It's really not who I am. I want things now. It's what drives me, what motivates me is these things I see real change happening. But understanding, I think that, with sustainability, that it is turning a big ship, but the waves that you have then are also big. And so I think, the exciting part of sustainability is that we're learning new things every day. That can also sometimes be frustrating when you do have to change your tact. But really, I think for me it was understanding the value in the small things, but then also continuing to drive towards those larger changes.
I think that I could have seen earlier that what a small player like HeyMatt could do. I would have used that earlier when we started the company. Because I thought that we are so small, we don't mean anything, it doesn't matter what we do. But I think it means something what we do. And it means because people maybe hear about it or read about it, and then they get motivated to do something similar. So I think I could have seen that earlier and having even more focus on it from the start.
I think what I would have changed in retrospect is listen. Again, having these idealistic approaches and grandiose ideas of what I could do with sustainability or persuading others to do in the sustainability realm. But again, maybe paused more and listened to what others' goals are, or your company's goals, your department goals, so you're able to create a more holistic vision and approach.
So I'm going to go into the future now, but I would love to know just what are your sustainability ideals looking out 1 year from now, 5 years from now, even 10 years from now. So when you work in the futures, we always think in 10-year increments, but do you have ideals? Do you have something that is inspiring you right now to think about HeyMatt in 10 years from now, or H&M, just what is possible?
Well, I think the sharing economy is having some great opportunities, and being able to having systems where people are using the products for as long as they need it, and when they don't need it anymore, other can use it. So it's in circulation and it's in use for the whole lifespan. That's something I would like. And also making our products recyclable, because today we are making products from recycled materials, but they are not totally recyclable when worn out. And that's also something we have to work with. We have to make products that can be recycled again.
Yeah, of course, circular business models, I think, for anyone in sustainability are really exciting, especially if you're in consumer goods. But to add on to that, I think, of course, with H&M's goal of becoming fully circular and climate positive, meaning throughout our entire value chain, we are reducing more greenhouse gases than we emit. It's really looking at how are you sourcing materials in a different way, and really how are you defining growth in a different way, in a new way than growth, especially for a retailer, is currently defined. How are you decoupling growth from reliance on virgin materials? And then of course for me, One of my guiding lights is mixed fiber to fiber recycling at scale, but that's a very fashion clothing niche thing. But that's really, ultimately it is circularity and what is the interplay between our products and our consumers and our business.
I think for me, being a consultant in design and sustainability and continuing to work with my clients, my own immediate vision is, in the short term, continue to be that catalyst, continue to be that persuader and negotiator, to continue, pushing your clients towards sustainability. And that 5-year goal, for the clients themselves is, I'm hoping that they're making meaningful choices that have impact. Again, whether it be on their product or their built environment. And I think lastly, my hope really is that it just becomes something that you're living, that you're not thinking about, that the choices that you're making come naturally. Again, the more we talk about it, the more we collaborate, but right now it's a very specific and conscious act that we have to do. And I think when it becomes not so conscious and just part of your being and how you live, that's when we've really reached our ultimate goal.
And I think what you're leading to and what we've discussed before is keeping people at the center of all of your sustainable actions and sustainable goals, because ultimately that's why we're even doing this work, is because we want to make sure that our communities are healthy and taken care of. But exactly to that point, you have to make it easy. You have to bring them along on the journey, and that's with everyone. You always have to keep that people first mindset.
So I know we have to wrap up, but I want to thank our lovely panelists and the lovely audience for being here and just being part of this conversation. And so any parting thoughts or any words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the group before we close?
I have no wisdom. No. I know, we weren't prepped for this one. I just think it's, by showing up and by being here and by having these conversations, I think that is one of the things that's really driving that real change. And I think, because we have that viewpoint of both sort of that Nordic, Scandinavian viewpoint of keeping the environment in mind, but then also, in the US, we are very advanced in terms of thinking about the people side of sustainability, the social impact side of sustainability. I would say the US is actually a leader in that. And so by combining those two forces, that's how you're going to be able to enact real change.
I think, again, kind of tagging on to what Sonia said before, in the beginning, not believing that you can make an impact, whether as a small company or as an individual. But I think, again, very powerful, my parting words of wisdom is, as an individual, continue to be conscious and cognizant of the decisions you make and continue to be that catalyst, because it does make a difference.
I hope that even though there's a lot of bad things happening in the world with war and everything, that environmental war is so strong that it keeps on in the time to come. And I think people in USA has a lot of power in making change, because you are a lot of people and the world's biggest economy. So I think what people here do is really important for everybody.
And with that, I want to close this wonderful discussion, but thank you again for being here. And I hope everybody has some great parting ideas coming out of this. So thanks so much.